Good morning, Jesse Latson with Latson Construction. We are a commercial general contractor here in Northeast Florida. And I want to take a little bit of time this morning and talk to you about time management. Last night I got a phone call and it was a very close individual of mine, and he quite frankly said, Jesse, I'm having a panic attack. And really what it came down to was he was extremely busy in business and was having a very hard time managing the time and really all the tasks at hand. And so I asked the usual questions on what are you doing throughout the day? Are you allowing time for yourself? And these were super easy questions, and they were the common answers that I got, and I'm gonna walk through that. So for this certain individual, and there's a lot of you out there that are facing these same things because I know I did when I started. And it's how do you fit everything into one day? Because as entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that time is money and money is time. So in this case here, there were three key areas that we noticed that was not allowing this individual and a lot of business owners to really get the tasks done throughout the day. And the first one is that we insert ourselves way too much in the everyday decision making process within the company. We have leaders that are delegated inside the organizations. They have roles and responsibilities, whether if it's through accounting, marketing, estimating, business development, whatever it may be. You have leaders, whether they are assigned as leaders or not. You as a business owners know that they are leaders and masters of those areas of business, and you have to honor and respect their positions and their ability to make those decisions. You cannot continue to insert yourselves day in and day out into those decision making processes. If you do not have a hierarchy in your company, I strongly recommend it, because it is critical in order for you to get your time back as this business owner to truly focus on what you're supposed to be focusing on in order to actually grow the business. The second thing is validation. So validation is something that a lot of people nowadays are seeking. And we see this a lot with the younger generation coming out of school, other companies, there's a lot of recruiting going on, and people just want to be validated in their positions, the way that they're performing, the value that they think they bring, and etc. Well, that's great. You can only give so much validation to individuals before they have to be ultimately responsible for their decisions and their actions. So one of the core values we have at Latson Construction is personal responsibility. I don't have the time day in and day out to give validation to every single employee. So they are held personally responsible for decisions that they make. And as a business owner, I know that in order for me to get my time, I have to let go. I have to delegate. I have to assign and allow these individuals to make their own decisions, have validations in their actions, and really fail sometimes. As crazy as that may sound, that is ultimately the best way to learn. Of course, if it doesn't cost the company money, but that's the best way for someone to learn is through failure. So there's a lot of sayings out there that if you're not failing, you're not doing, and that is not more true than anything else out there. And I remember growing up and looking back on life, and man, failure was awful. It sucked, but really, I would not be where I am today if I wouldn't have failed. I went through the corporate world, made some bad decisions, failed at projects, failed at responsibilities, but all that prepared me to where, to where we are today. And the third one, and a huge one, and I'm guilty of this here recently, and it's assigning staff to areas that they're not familiar with. And I'm going to use an example of that. Not that this is my company or your company, but this is an example. So let's talk about accounting. Accounting is a good one because it's really a niche in any business. You cannot take a bookkeeper from an outside company, bring them in, and put them in a controller type position. It's not going to work. It doesn't make sense. They're not trained to perform at that level. They're not trained to run reports to a magnitude that you need as a business owner. We'll go another operations. You cannot take a entry-level individual, a project engineer, project manager, and throw them into an operations manager position. Because what that does is you as a business owner, you may have that knowledge, you may have that experience, but that individual does not. So even if you assign that and you think he can do it or she can do it, doesn't mean they're capable and that they actually can. You as the business owner, you have to monitor, you have to check in, you have to grade, but ultimately you are responsible for assigning that individual to that operational type role. You are responsible to know the value, to know the results the individual is bringing. And you cannot put someone in that type of position without training, without mentorship. And so a lot of people say that, you know, I feel like I'm always engaged. I feel like they're always checking in with me, and they probably are. But the reason for that is because you have put that individual in a position that they have never been exposed to, they have never been trained for. So you as a business owner, you have to expect that to happen. The only way to prevent that is if you do take a step back and you put a plan in place. So approach this as another strategy in the business. Outline the roadmap for an individual to get to a higher level position. You know, guide them through the paths of, you know, how do I get from my A to my B? And we talked about this all the time. How do we get from A to B? There's a path to get there. You can't just jump to your B. It's the same thing in business. And so those are the three key areas that we identified yesterday with this one individual, and I guarantee you that these are the three areas that you have challenges with as a business owner.